welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting, another episode of the Indie Show. These have been few and far between lately, it seems like, but we are talking Black Hammer 45 tonight. And yes, we are late. I apologize, but Justin and John just kept talking on the X-Men, and we got late because of it. So that's just, can't get them. They're not even live, and they're still taking forever. So, hey, Justin, what's going on, John? Hey, Daryl, what's going on? So,
darn that Omni X-Men.
Omni X-Men's been over for 4 weeks, and
we still extend it.
Can't stop us. Can't stop us.
That's right.
We make everything wait.
Good to see you, fellas.
What's going on, everybody? Everybody having a good evening? No, John's having a bit of a crazy day.
But I'm here to talk Black Hammer 45.
That's right. We are talking Black Hammer 45 tonight, and so let's get initial impressions of Black Hammer 45. We're out of the main Black Hammer at this point. It's all these side universe stuff. Let's start with Daryl. We're going to give Daryl a chance to go first. What did you think about Black Hammer 45?
I liked it. It was different than the rest of the series. So, I won't say I loved it. It's not one that I would be like, read this first to check out the Black Hammer world, but I did enjoy it.
Okay. Justin, what about you?
Yeah, so to me, this was basically Black Hammer Top Gun. So that's kind of how I took this whole thing.
So that means it's Justin's favorite thing.
Yeah. I'm like, this is fantastic. We're just getting more and more Top Gun. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Daryl said. I like it. This wasn't like, I didn't love it, but I definitely enjoyed it, and I definitely appreciated just the tie-in and a lot of the little characters that we get more backing to that we've already met, which I know we'll touch on. So I appreciate all that in this larger aspect of, what Jeff Lemire has built. So it is nice to get some context to some of these, historical characters that, we probably won't hear as much about, but we still hear their names and things like that. So yeah, I would recommend anybody that's already on the Black Hammer kind of, train of reading this stuff to read this as well, for sure.
Okay, well, I feel like I'm pretty much in lockstep with you guys. This is probably easily my least favorite thing we've read of Black Hammer so far.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not like I didn't dislike it, but it just, for me, it was definitely a step down from the other stuff.
Yeah.
I felt like the narrative was it didn't all come together for me in a way that, like, these guys didn't grab my attention the way some of the other characters have and hold it. But it wasn't bad, and I would definitely say if you're loving everything Black Hammer, then it's worth a read, but it would not be where I would point someone to start, like you guys said.
Right.
All right, so John, I made you wait till last because so you can come in and tell us how we're all wrong, and this is the greatest thing ever, and go.
I mean, you're done. Okay, good. You got it. You understand. No, I mean, it's definitely not the best Black Hammer tie-in or Black Hammer offshoot. And the big flaw, to Daryl's point, of trying to read Black Hammer chronologically within story is that this would go first, and it definitely doesn't need to go first.
Mm-hmm.
I, however, love anybody who's a Golden Age comic book fan would probably love this book. There's homages to Golden Age horror and Golden Age war comics here galore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And on top of which, it's like a nerdgasm of all kinds of like giant mech robot suits and crazy super powered characters. And in that way, it's also like a fun like throwback to just a whole Silver Age era of comics. And so for me, I love the nostalgia kick, and then the ways they bring in race and religion, I think, have a lot of fun impacts too.
Well, I would say that some of that is definitely the best part. I like the villains and the mechs and stuff, and it was just kind of like some of that just didn't work for me. And I don't know, like I didn't like the art is very different.
Matt Kindt, yeah.
I don't.
Oh, this is Matt Kindt. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't dislike the art, but I don't think.
I don't know.
I think it maybe.
I thought Matt Kindt was an artist. Is he a writer too?
He's a writer. Yeah, I know him as a writer.
That's what I thought. He was a writer. I'll be honest. I didn't even look at who the artist was. I kind of agree. It's like I didn't hate the art, but it was like I like that rough style, but it was almost like so simplistic that at times I was like, I could have drawn this, and I hate using that as a critique. But like, there were times I not some of the splash pages and stuff were like super cool, but just some of the like, back and forth dialogue pages, I was like, this is so rough and plain. Like I don't, it was missing something.
Yeah, I felt the same. Like I thought it was very like almost too simple at times, but I grew an appreciation for it as I went on, where I feel like it separates itself from all these other stories that we've been reading, and I just feel like it fits the timeline of 45 and back in the day type of, I don't know, just now I associate, I see this art, I'm going to associate it to, oh, these are the early days, type, I don't know. That's just kind of where I've kind of grown the appreciation for. So not that it needs to be like the other stuff. I think it fits its own era in a way. So it grew on me.
Yeah, it definitely like delineates that this is a different time. This is a different part of the universe.
Yeah.
Like from that perspective.
Yeah.
And I think but I do think for me, it maybe held back like some of this working in terms of like the mechs and the pilot guy and like, I don't know, some of it that they were battling against, it just like overall, I can't even put my finger on it, but overall it just didn't quite work for me as a story. I felt like them being called the Black Hammer unit felt very forced because we have the Black Hammer later, and it's like, well, his name was Hammersmith or whatever the heck it was. It was like
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne Hammer. I can't even remember what it was.
Yeah, Hammer was just his nickname, I think.
Was it just his nickname? I thought it was like Hawthorne. No, maybe I got it wrong.
Yeah, I forget it. Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
I don't know. It just felt like it might have been better had it been Hammer Hawthorne. There you go.
Hammer Hawthorne.
And it was like, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't feel like that was necessary, and the whole thing just didn't quite work for me. But yeah, it was not. Again, I feel like I'm being harsh. I'm taking a page out of Alex's book. I actually liked it. It was just not. It was definitely a step down though for me. So do we want to actually get into the story a little bit? Let's talk about the art a little more. You guys have any other thoughts you want to express on the art while we were on that subject? John or Daryl, you guys didn't really.
It's got a Jeff Lemire style. Those that have read books where Jeff Lemire draws his books, like he most recently it was at Maze Book. Very rough, raw sketch style that is very distracting, and I totally get it. I just got used to it by the time I started getting into the book, and it just didn't faze me. I will say the bigger issue I had with the art was there definitely spots where I feel like I was missing a couple of panels just in progression, and that bugs me way more than the look is story progression and can I follow it? And there's stuff like missing where it's like, wait, did he crash? Did he land? Did he jump? Like I missed. It feels like there's a panel missing or two panels missing.
Yeah.
Well,
that hurts me more.
There were two characters, Hammer and like the other guy that was kind of there at the end with him. They looked so similar. It was hard to tell who was doing what.
Yeah.
Hammer and JP.
And I think,
JP,
yeah. I think that's where you were feeling that, John, is because like I got it too. I was like, no, wait a minute, which one is in the plane and which one's on the ground? And
when he crashes, it happens so fast. Like I couldn't tell. Like all of a sudden he was on the ground, and I was like, wait, nope, he's not over there. And then the sequence just left me trying to figure out like, wait, who's where? How did that happen? And I had to go back and check things over and realize like what was happening. So it just felt. And that's a bigger issue for me rather than the quality of the art, because I can get into it like I did for Maze Book and just be kind of like in that universe. Yeah.
Well, and like for me, there's times where the art just doesn't always connect very well from panel to panel. You're right, and that was an issue. I had an issue with JP and Hammer looking too much alike at times. there was just some things that just didn't quite work for me overall. And then, I mean, I don't mind a rough style, but it just, yeah, I do think it kept me from maybe getting into the story a little bit. For sure.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Well, let's actually go through this story a little bit. So, the beginning here, we kind of get introduced to basically an old soldier who's got some sort of appointment today, and he's kind of you see all his memories and pictures on the wall from his younger days, and then we kind of immediately go into a bit of a flashback to back in the war. So what do you think of our introduction here to, and do they leave it? I felt like they left it kind of up in the air about which character this was, or did they give it away? Maybe I missed it and they give it away right at the beginning, and I'm wrong on that.
No, I thought it was left up in the air at first.
Yeah,
I don't think we knew right away,
or whether it was Hammer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that. I didn't realize who it was
until later.
Yeah,
I thought it was Hammer the whole time.
They call him Captain right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Right. I guess that would be the only
when he goes into the Chinese restaurant. That's the only time we get his name kind of right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So it is it's up in the air early in the story about who the older gentleman is, which of the characters it actually is that you're hearing about when you go to the flashbacks, whether it's JP or whether it's Hammer. So what do you guys think of this introduction and how they kind of introduce him and then kind of flashback to introduce this squad that he was a part of, this elite squad that he was a part of? Justin.
Yeah. I like the story, the way that they're telling the story here, where it is this flashback. There's the present day, and then looking back. It kind of reminded me of Shadow Doctor last year. Remember when that came out? That was kind of similar. The guy in the hospital was telling the story to his son or grandson. So I like that aspect of kind of hashing out this story that way. And then also just I don't know, I guess the excitement of, who this team was back then. And they really go above and beyond in explaining, like, they did it all, Yeah. And even with that, it's still, you're curious, like, okay, they did it all. Like, where is this going? Or, what is this story still about? You're kind of still questioning that as you go. But yeah, I like the kind of the path that it went down by having the present / history being told.
What about you, Daryl? What did you think of this first issue where we're kind of getting a flashback to the present and the past, and getting a little bit of introduced to this crew?
For this type of story, where it was like a World War II story, a little formulaic. You kind of knew that like they were gathering up to honor somebody that fell by the end.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was setting up a little bit of a predictable run, but you're still kind of like, well, let's see what the journey takes us on along the way. So, it was interesting enough to like keep you going.
Yeah. John, what about you? What do you think about this beginning of this first issue? And
it's definitely cliche and very Saving Private Ryan-esque. I will say though that that's the main reason why I dislike Saving Private Ryan is how poorly they use it in that movie, because spoiler alert, the guy who's flashing back at the beginning wasn't at D-Day. He wasn't there at the beach in Normandy. So it makes no sense that that's where the story starts, that we jump straight into D-Day. The guy wasn't there. Like they blow it for me with the old man recollecting, zooming in on his eyes, and then we're with people that are actually on Normandy, and the guy flashing back wasn't there.
No, he was airborne, and he was
airborne way over in France inland.
Yeah.
He was not at the beach, nowhere near the beach. That ruins the movie for me. Drives me crazy. What I like about the way they're doing it here is at least they're setting up a little bit of a mystery as far as like what's bringing these characters together, whether it's the gentleman in the restaurant, the wingman character, very funny, or the soldier, and who are they and how do they interconnect. I think that's the real mystery. I kind of like that little concept, but super cliche. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that would drive Alec crazy. Like every issue has to have a little bit further in that like bookend stuff. We're talking about Black Hammer 45, my man Perry. What's going on? So that's my feeling on it.
Yeah.
Better than Saving Private Ryan, but still annoying.
And I do feel like the first issue spends a lot of time like, let's introduce everybody. Let's introduce the old soldiers, and let's introduce the squad, and let's introduce the main German villain, and let's introduce the main Russian villain. And it's there's a lot of like there is a lot of cliche in here, and we're going on this, and it's Justin talked about Top Gun and Black Hammer. It's like, and we're going on this suicide mission to end the war, and it's just
and it's the last one.
Yeah,
the last phase of the war, one last mission. There's just so much like formula here that I thought it was a newborn. They were just feeding me formula. So, I mean, not that any of it's bad. It's just like that first issue. I think maybe that set the tone for me, limited my enjoyment of the rest of it, because that first issue was so much of here's we're gonna follow this step in the formula and this step of the formula, and it's not that it was bad. It was just like okay, like
I agree with that assessment.
I mean, it's a formula for a reason, because it does work on a level, but it was just like I could have used a little more here than just and even this last page, the three heading to this, heading to the battle with each other.
Yeah, they're all heading to the same.
A little over the top of. Well, I guess that was the second to last page, but yeah.
Well, I think part of the issue though with it is because it is part of this Black Hammer series. In this first issue, you're also looking for that connective tissue to the main Black Hammer series, and you do get that by the end, and maybe it's even mentioned before. Is it mentioned in the first issue about the Project Weird? Is it mentioned in the first issue?
Yeah,
I feel like I didn't get that until the very end when they.
I can't remember. They do mention it like when they're doing their mission briefing.
Yeah. Towards the end of the first, I think. Yep.
Okay. So I just forgot.
Yeah, they talk about Project Weird at the end of the mission during the mission briefing for sure. Yeah. Okay. So we do get a little bit.
Because I read the first two issues a couple weeks ago, and then when we delayed the show, it wasn't interesting enough, I guess, for me to just continue on in that moment. So I kind of waited. But it's just like you're looking for this connective tissue, like what is connecting us to the world of Black Hammer that we've been reading, other than this squadron being called the Black Hammer.
And the little cameos, right?
Because that's what I was thinking. Cameos.
You get Abraham,
Wingman,
Abraham and Gale flash through in like quick succession without any like real sequences.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, that was one of the issues is there's no connectivity between this Black Hammer squadron and the Black Hammer character that we get.
That's what I was wondering. I thought I missed something almost. That was
something I felt like was like, wait, if you're gonna call him Black Hammer, where's the connectivity? I went into it thinking somebody like before her dad, there was somebody that had the hammer back in World War II. That this was that was like I was thinking Captain America and the Howling Commandos kind of thing, like like a like him leading a group of. But we didn't get that. We got Hammer was the guy's name. It was like wait,
right, and they were black,
and he's black,
and he's black. It's like okay, and him and the other black guy and the Asian guy got thrown in a squad because it was the 40s. So it was
and I like that Tuskegee Airmen kind of thing that they had going in there.
Yeah,
I like that.
The Tuskegee part of it, I was like, why are they called Black Hammer? It just because
they even talked about how like they didn't get the press that
some
of the other squadrons and the superheroes were getting and stuff. which stuff like that. That's interesting, from a historical standpoint and the story they're trying to tell there. So, like I said, there were things in the first issue that definitely was like, okay, this is good enough to keep going.
Yeah.
But it wasn't knocking my socks off like, oh man, I can't put this down. It's like so good,
Yeah. So, anything else in that first issue you guys want to touch on? Obviously, we get.
I'll just say I love the mechs and the mech suits from Russia. I think are pretty hilarious.
Oh
and the giant racist Thor.
Yeah.
I think for me that's the kind of stuff that I think is hilarious, and I can geek on a little bit, even though I'm not some like big, what is it, kaiju versus mech guy. Yeah, there's an element of it that is just kind of like geeky nerddom that I just was like, yeah, I can geek on this for a bit, sure. Like World War II in the Black Hammer universe, this is what it looked like.
Yeah,
right. I like that aspects about the story as a whole. When they would encounter those kind of things, because you're like, we are in this universe where there's like scientists that are developing these crazy things.
Right.
So like a mech suit doesn't, especially that mech suit, it's almost just like a walking tank, more or less.
Yeah.
And then, the Thor thing, I remember like I was just flipping through when I saw that and I was like, ooh, here looks like something interesting we're going to get to. But then it turned out to be like a hologram projection or something in a way.
Yeah.
Which, again, though, made sense for like
that time
storyline.
Yeah. We also met or we got a little history with what's his name? Ghost Hunter. The villain Ghost Hunter in that one, right?
The Ghost is it Ghost Hunter?
The pilot?
Yeah, Ghost Hunter.
Yeah.
And how he just kind of thrived he wasn't in it for like money or anything per se.
Yeah.
Just a super assassin. Yeah.
He just likes shooting other people down.
Right.
Like
the challenge. The challenge.
It was all about
he was your Red Baron of the book, and
clearly the Red Baron kind of but like what was it? The number of like kills they attribute to him.
Oh yeah.
So ridiculous.
High number, yeah.
So
Top Gun, it's Top Gun.
So
850, more than 850.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a big number.
So literally also alive at the end with the old soldiers, right?
Yeah.
That was him?
No.
That he had like the angel wings and stuff?
No, that's one of the heroes. That's a different guy.
I was confused by that because he was pale white.
That's Wingman.
Down the side.
Yeah, so Wingman
down the side of his face and everything. I was like, so confused by that.
I like that we got Wingman because we met him as an older guy still, right? In one of the one with Lucy. Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. So I like. Right. So I like that that it was those little moments, and like John had mentioned, like it's those little moments that I appreciated of this. Just to see those little hints of cameos and he was funny, he had the backseat stuff. I know we'll get to that, but like, so I liked that kind of stuff. Also, just to know, once I've remembered that his name was Wingman, totally Top Gun. The guy's name's Hangman in Top Gun. So I'm just like, oh my god, this is great. I got to play the music while I read this.
Okay, so that went completely over my head. I now that you're saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember reading it in the Sherlock Frankenstein book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I do.
When Lucy's going around trying to. Yeah.
Right, I do remember him, but like it did not resonate with me when I was reading this book. That's why I was like, so why is the German guy that was like their enemy?
Yeah.
Because like when he got in the car and I was like, oh, they must be building to something where they're gonna have to team up or something, and he like defects, and then that doesn't happen, and so I was left pretty confused.
We saw Wingman even in Doctor Andromedon too, at the bar.
Well, see, I've not read that one because you guys did that before I joined the show.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I haven't read that one, but so I guess that's where I was like, that's where the art suffered again because he looks so much like the Ghost Chaser, Ghost Killer guy.
Right.
I mean, like, look at him. He's like pale white, and he looks like he has the scar down the side of his face the same way.
This guy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the Ghost Hunter, and then
you're saying like that. He looks like.
I mean, the scar is way more prominent on the Ghost Hunter, but yeah, I get what you're talking about. Yeah,
I agree, but like I kept seeing this line, that's why I was like, but that's a failing on the art, like we were talking earlier. So.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the whole wingman interaction with the two other members of the squad. And he's just trying to, like, he's telling stories and making chit chat, but yeah, just like getting on every last nerve they have. What did you think about, like, John, what did you think about the whole wingman and playing they're giving him a ride, but it's like they don't even like each other. Why are they giving him a ride?
I think it just goes to show sometimes the people that you spend time with because of obligation, maybe. And clearly these three feel a connection that's not necessarily emotional to each other, but more like relational based on the history they spent together.
Well, and they have a respect for the person that they all have a mutual respect for the person that
truly
like honor.
I also wanted to highlight, I think part of the reason the dialogue in this book may not be as emotionally tactful as the other books is this isn't written by Lemire. This was story by Lemire, written by the other guy, Ray Fox. Okay. And it's possible that just his writing isn't as
kind of lost.
But this is a sequence that feels very Lemire-esque for me.
Yeah.
The banter in that group all through the series feels that to me.
Yeah. So we kind of start out the second issue with that, and then we jump back to them figuring out this Thor God thing is actually like a trick. And this weird machine that's like zeppelins and helicopters. It's like, I don't know what this is supposed to be, but
they're not falling for it.
Yeah, but one of the they end up getting attacked by the ghost hunter guy, who's not even in a plane. He's just like flying on wings, which was like, wait, what? He has wings?
Oh yeah.
Further confusing me.
But the other thing we get here is we get the start of the story of the family that they're supposed to be going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And this was so weird because we get like this officer that's chasing them, that's like this werewolf guy, and then he just like disappears from the story. Like the family, like you think that that's gonna be somebody they have to save him from, and then like he just like vanishes. There's no like, and then we also get like this weird, and I know this is just kind of a flash to the the world, but we see like these other like superhero type people.
The horseless rider.
Yeah, and then they never show up again.
Right.
Like, wait, what is going on? Like,
the horseless rider. Yeah, I didn't realize that guy did just disappear. The one, I guess that's supposed to be like Hitler's sign, or like he's like a werewolf guy, right? The
werewolf guy.
He's like, do you think you can run? There's nowhere for you to run. You are mine. Do you hear me? Your time. Your time's up, and then I don't see him again after that.
No, he never shows up again.
Did he run off because the Russian?
Well, like the Russian guys
were showing
up, and they're like blowing stuff up, but you don't even see like anything happen to this guy.
Maybe because Ghost Hunter shows up.
I don't know. It was just weird.
There were a slew of like evil henchmen that could have been culled down to like a couple.
Yeah.
For sure, for me at least.
It just felt weird because he's chasing them.
Yeah, he is gone after that. I'm looking through.
The guy that but then as the camp's being attacked, then there's a totally different, just random regular soldier guy that's the one that actually tries to run off with them.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, wait, why did you even introduce this werewolf?
Right. It is.
We don't see what happens to him. We don't. Nothing. You can't run from me. You can. You can walk from him. He just doesn't exist anymore.
I'd forgotten about that part. Even that, I think there was the werewolf guy, and I do remember thinking like, "Oh, there's werewolves. There's werewolves now." All of a sudden,
right.
And like, I guess I just didn't even notice that he disappeared. Because it's like a lot was going on. I think, are we past the Abraham part? Or is it?
No, it's coming up. It's coming up.
We're not there yet.
Okay, I think so. Probably by the time that happens, and I was like, oh, cool, a character I know. I totally forgot about the werewolf guy. Maybe the writer did too along the way.
I think he did. So the other kind of plot point we get introduced here, more specifically than we kind of got a little bit of it early, or hinted at it early, but we don't really get it till the details here when Ghost Hunter actually shows up and starts attacking him. Is that clearly him and Hammer have like a grudge? Like they don't, Hammer has a grudge. He killed his brothers.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what did you guys think of that story and plot line? I'm curious, John, did that work for you? Like their personal kind of animosity? What did you think of that?
I like it. I mean, it needs to be personal because you need to have these villains and heroes feel like there's something bigger at stake here, and history is an easy way to do it. So that worked for me just fine.
Okay, what about you, Justin?
I thought it was fine. It didn't go as deep as that maybe I thought it would be. I mean, I don't know if it really needed it, I guess, but I guess I was expecting more, or to learn a little bit more of that background other than just this guy, he's a killer, he's killed my brothers, and that's it. I don't know. I thought maybe even at the showdown at the end or whatever, like I thought maybe there'd be a little bit more discussion about that, or highlighting something, or even a flashback. Maybe we, got a flashback of his brothers or something like that and how they died or something like that, but we never really got any other detail.
Yeah. What about you, Daryl? What did you think of that whole plot line of,
So are you trying to say that you think the guy with the wings and the giant like mace is also the pilot that we fight later? Because I don't think it's the same guy.
No, it is. It's the same guy.
I think the guy dies, and then we get the pilot later, the German pilot later on. They
call him by his name when he's attacking him, and they're like,
he says effing bat, and I think it's all he says to that guy. I didn't take it as the same guy, and I've read this twice now. So that if you're right, then I missed out on that.
Well,
I think John.
So maybe you're right.
I think John's right.
All he says is effing bad. I just took it as a guy like trying to mess him up.
And wasn't there more than one bat guy?
No,
I thought he died. Like this little bit where they catch him
and I just assumed they were just like,
and then you never see him again. I took it as like they killed him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I misread that because when you look at him, he does not have the scars. So you're right. It is not.
Yeah, I didn't think that was the same pilot guy.
I totally thought that was the same pilot, so I totally missed that.
But again, it's a comment on the art, right? The confusing layers of the art.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was weird when he showed up with the wings instead of like in his plane, and then it was like,
which is what I'm saying. That
I thought he just had more powers or something.
Yeah, I felt like there was a slew of mini henchmen. When I think one or two would have sufficed and given the story a little more weight in the right spots instead of just like a variety.
If that would have been, boy, that kind of even makes it worse for me because because I thought that was a first skirmish with the Ghost Hunter and like they were setting that up through the thing and like they had multiple skirmishes, but they didn't. They just had the one at the end. So
yeah,
so that really makes the Ghost Hunter story like. My thoughts on the Ghost Hunter thing, like Hammer and Ghost Hunter having history, is that it's not developed enough for his feelings, like for the anger he has for him. I didn't feel like there was enough there. Like Justin talked about, that we don't get enough to understand really the animosity between the two, and why Hammer kind of goes off. Like it's when we see him actually go off mission. It's like because he wants this guy, and. So without that earlier battle, now it's like there really isn't enough for that to pay that off.
Well, I think they just mentioned when they introduced the Ghost Killer. Is that his name?
Ghost Hunter.
When they introduced him, they just talked about how deadly he'd been throughout the whole war, and that they had like interacted with him a few times already. So it's like you had that, and it was going to build up to that again. But as far as like the whole, like you killed my brothers thing, I mean, it's fine. It worked for me, but like Justin said, it wasn't fleshed out to make it like super impactful to where there was like a lot of emotion in the moment of him, like when they finally do have their confrontation over it. But the backstory of it, I think, was fine for motivation and stuff, but could have used a little bit more.
So, on that point, like, would this have been better? Like, I feel like we didn't need the Russian lady. Like, if you just set it up that Ghost Hunter's this like unstoppable force that they've dealt with before, and they have a history, and instead of spending time on this Russian lady in the mechs, that was more spent on Hammer and Ghost Hunter and their history and them fighting. I feel like that would have paid off a lot more now that, like, just an
I feel like they included it though just to kind of give the hints of the environment of war and war and having more countries involved.
Basically, three different. Yeah, there's everybody's against everybody, and
right.
The Germans are fighting the Russians are fighting the Germans, and they're fighting us, and we're fighting both.
And they were all after the scientists. They all wanted to kind of catch. So I think having that angle, I agree. Like it probably wasn't needed overall, but to capture the essence of a world war, I think is really more what they were trying to keep going.
She also served the purpose of having the mech suits in there to have something else just kind of visually cool that's not a typical World War II thing.
But that's true.
That is our one kind of advanced technology that we really do. Yeah,
because the others were just flying planes, basically, other than the werewolves and
the fake Thor
creature, or the fake Thor.
But the racist master race Thor.
Yeah, and then of course she's the big catalyst at the end too. But I mean, you could have pulled that off with anything exploding, but I guess her.
I don't know. I feel like you could have pulled that off with the Russian army just being faceless and nameless attacking. Like that they didn't need to be. We didn't need to spend time on her. I feel like the time we spent developing, which was limited, but the time we spent developing her character would have been better spent developing Ghost Hunter versus Hammer, because I feel like that was meant to be the big emotional payoff here, and at the end. And it's like, I don't know. I just feel underwhelmed by it, and I think that's why I didn't necessarily like love this the way I've loved most of the rest of Black Hammer stuff that we've read. I know I just jumped kind of to the end, but
we're kind of jumping all over at this point.
Yeah, the truth is, I don't know that there's a ton more to flesh out. That's the story, right? And we get our heroes moving towards the villains. We get the villains moving towards the heroes. We get the trio in the car on the way to the event, and we get the prisoners of war being chased, and everything kind of collides in the big finale.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of good elements there. How many issues was it? Was it 5 or 6? It was only 4.
Yeah.
It probably needed another issue or two, and I don't usually say that, but it probably needed another issue or two to develop some more of the character moments and stuff. Because like we were saying at the beginning, it's like the setup and everything was very formulaic, kind of cliche. We kind of knew where it was going to head with like honoring somebody. Of course, they kind of do a little bait and switch with rough art. You can't tell who it is, but it probably could have used another issue or two to flesh out some of these things that we're talking about.
And that's where I feel like it's interesting, because like I agree that we needed more time to flesh out some of these things, and yet I feel like we kind of got some like the bad guy was filler, and the like all the things they go through to try to get to these scientists they're trying to save is like, oh, we get attacked by a bad guy, and oh, we have to run into Abraham Slam, and oh, we have to like there's this stuff that like doesn't really fill the story that they're trying to tell about him, and yet at the same time we have filler and we don't have enough of what we want. It's like, I just feel like this is it's just unbalanced maybe for me or something. I don't know. It's just like,
I was surprised it was only 4 issues, and I also felt that like I was expecting a real like tearjerker moment of some sort, getting really punched in the gut somewhere, and then it just never got there. And part of it was it's Jeff Lemire. I'm thinking, although as John, you pointed out, it technically he had formulated the story, but it wasn't involved in the specific writings. But I did still kind of I was expecting some sort of emotion there at the end, and it is like sad, that they're trying to highlight a hero and things like that, but it wasn't this type of emotion I thought I was going to get from it.
And yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. By the time it gets to the end, I'm not gonna say I was glad to be done with it, but I was just going, oh, okay, and then I closed the book and
I mean, the end we get this, what's supposed to be this super touching. Like all these people have gathered for this guy, all these people that he saved, but we don't get enough of that. Like we get this one family, and we get his friends, and this one mission, and I don't know. It's just for me, it didn't come together. Like why Hammer Hawthorne what was so special about him because really what we see him as a guy that spends as much of this book about revenge as he does about saving those people. And so I'm curious. John, very quiet while we've been kind of ripping on this.
Your points are all valid. I don't think there's any thing to say against them. For me, it works well enough as just fun. I think there's definitely going to be future trades in the Black Hammer mixed universe that don't just simply connect, that are kind of off to the sides pretty far. And sometimes the art's not going to be your favorite or your best. And so this one, I can enjoy it as a throwback to Golden Age comics, war comics, but with a fun 2022 whatever bent. I don't think it's incredible or amazing or anything. Sorry, I got beach hair. It's amazing. But I can enjoy it. I can get a kick out of it.
Well, so go ahead, Justin.
I like that. I do like that with the ending, the idea of legacy, leaving legacy behind, and what one person does and how it ultimately affects everything else. Even though, like you said, JP, we don't get into those details very much, even though that last page describes all these other wonderful things that kind of came out of it and all the people that were saved. But it is highlighting legacy and all that. One thing though, too, that does kind of connect and but maybe not where we don't know about it yet is, it does talk about Project Weird, and we have an idea with Weird, what, that could lead into, but we still don't know details of Weird. And maybe that's something they're going to write, furthermore. But I think if anything, that is going to be that piece, the one piece that kind of connects to the bigger stuff. So later when we do read about Project Weird, we're going to be like, oh, we know how the plans got, saved and all this other stuff, so I'm assuming that we're going to get more of that at some point.
And I'm completely okay that it doesn't connect strongly to some of the other stuff. That doesn't bother me. I feel like they don't connect the pieces inside the story well enough for some of that. That's for me where it fails. It's not that it doesn't connect strongly enough to Gale or Abraham or whatever. It's just that we're supposed to be honoring this guy, and I feel like we actually in some ways got the mission where he was being the most selfish, that he wasn't necessarily he was out for revenge as much as he was out to save these people, and and ultimately it ends up in his his demise is getting his revenge. But so it's just curious to me, it just didn't come together. I think some of the strong points are some of the stuff where they're interacting with the other soldiers and they're interacting with Abraham, and you're getting the crap they had to go through that wasn't just war, because of who they were and the time and that kind of stuff. Some of that works really well, but I don't feel like some of Hammer's story works as well as it needs to make me be like, oh, this is great. And yeah. So you guys, we're coming up on we're 45 minutes in. You guys got final thoughts on Black Hammer 45 before we kind of wrap this up? Anything else you want to touch on?
I mean, I'm glad that you guys had pointed out like some of the artwork stuff and and how some of it was questionable, because I definitely had felt that way throughout some of this. So I feel better hearing that you guys also kind of were questioning certain things, because it definitely, there were moments there for sure where I'm like, well, who did what and who died and who, So the art, I think if that was a step better, at least more accurate in that sense, doesn't have to be better, but just more accurate, more understanding, I think would have enhanced the read a little bit more. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I appreciate reading it. I do hope maybe there is that bigger connection later. We learn more about Project Weird, and we can kind of look back at this and be like, oh, well, at least we know kind of how the plans were saved and all that stuff. So, which, I assume is either it's already been written or it's coming out. So yeah, as I said in the beginning, I would definitely recommend this to anyone that's reading Black Hammer already. And if they just want a taste of more of it.
Yeah. John, what about you? What are your thoughts on this overall?
I mean, a fun diversion for those that don't like reading Gold or Silver Age books. It's a way to read that stuff without having to be stuck in the dregs of like, oh my gosh, Silver Age, so much writing on the page. Instead, it's a more modern take on those kind of stories. I struggle reading Silver Age. I tease our joke with White Whale Comics all the time. Our joke is Silver Age sucks. Like just reading it is brutal. It can be really hard. It's so much, dude. It's brutal. It's brutal. I love the characters. I love those. I love those, the creation stories and stuff. But sometimes the slog of reading like a ton of Silver Age it wears me down, because there's so much writing on the page. It's like the art is like this tiny little thing. I love Kirby. I would love to give him the chance to do like something more than just like lay out all of Stan Lee's art writing around him. Just crush his stuff with all the writing. But in this way, you can kind of get a modernization of some of that. I do like the shootout with the on the ground between the two characters at the end. I think that there's some really great stuff. He all of a sudden he's shot, and then they got that long shot of the German soldier like reloading his gun. Like there's some really cool bits there. But I think the power is lost when you're constantly dealing with like, wait, what happened? I'm confused. Why wasn't that the layout skills of Matt Kent here are a little lacking.
Yeah, for sure. Daryl, what about you? What are any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, just kind of echoing, like I said at the beginning, this isn't something somebody was like, hey, what's a good Black Hammer book to start with? And you're thinking of like a little one-off story to hand them. I don't know that I would hand somebody this and say, this is a good introduction to the world of Black Hammer. But like John said, it's, if like us, you're already so far into the Black Hammer world, it's a fine diversion. You get a little bit of the world involved. Like Justin was saying, we've got a little piece of Project Weird that, we have an idea that's going to play a bigger part, at some point. So it's worth reading. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. It was fine.
Fair.
Yeah, for me, it just like I agree with everything you guys are saying. Like if I'm recommending Black Hammer to someone, this would be like, and if you get around to it and you love it, Black Hammer, then you might read Project Black Hammer 45. But like it would not. I think I would recommend everything we've read to this point before I recommended this pretty easily. And I think it's just that, and I think there is a feel of that this isn't that Lemire laid this out, but then somebody else tried to execute it. Maybe that there's just a little bit of a disconnect in how well some of the plot points and story points come together, which I think can happen when you have this is your story, and then but here fill in this is where you start, and this is where you end, and but hit these points and fill this in. And like, I feel like there's, now that you say that, because I hadn't really registered that, John, but like, I feel like that's maybe what it's suffering from, because I don't feel like it connects to itself very well. Like we've talked about how it connects to the bigger universe, but I don't feel like it connects to itself very well. I don't think it does a good enough job of setting up Hammer and Ghost Hunter. I don't think it does a good, like it has all these little side characters that are unneeded. It like you talked about, it needed more issues, and yet it had filler. Like the werewolf dude was filler. The bat dude was filler. Like it was, even Abraham was sort of filler. He shows up, drives them for a little bit, and then they run into this other thing, and he's like, well, I got to help these people. See ya. You know, it's like, did we need Abraham at all? Like at that point,
there and gone.
Yeah, and I feel like that time could have been better spent. Like, tell me the story of this guy and like what he's done and why these people are gathered at the end, and why they're so, like, you get why JP and now I'm blanking on the other guy that's the third member's name. You get why they're emotional. But they don't give you enough to why there's this huge crowd for him. Like, and I feel like that's where it just misses. It misses the beat for me in terms of like really setting up this Ghost Hunter and Hammer, and it really misses the beat for me in why these people really come to honor this man. And they don't give us enough, I don't think. But it's not terrible. It's just, it's definitely a step down from the quality of what we've gotten in this universe to this point. So
yeah,
like you were saying about the, like, why are all these people coming to honor him? When, I mean, we kind of discussed it a minute ago, but all he really did was partly contribute to saving this one scientist. I mean, if you had said, like, and because they kept reiterating, this is the end of the war is basically over except for this one thing. You know, it's like the war has been won. It's not like he made some sacrifice that helped end the war.
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe if there was some, like, because he saved these scientists, like, this other big thing happened.
Like something more significant. Yeah.
Something more significant happened because he saved these scientists that would make, like, crowds of people show up to, like, honor him, you know?
Or maybe
you didn't get that from the series.
Or if we just saved, like, all the people in this camp, like, you know, and not just this one family. Like, maybe they went for this one family, but he made sure everybody got out. Or something. Like,
saved like 400 people from the camp.
I mean, like, I just feel like then there's just more, and I don't feel like they give you quite enough to explain why he's
I agree.
Big a deal. So, all right, well, we're coming up on our hour. You guys have, I guess I just asked you for final thoughts, but anything else you want to say before we go to, like, what you got coming up and that kind of stuff?
I'm looking forward to Quantum Age, right? Is that where we're going next?
That's where we're going next. For you in here is Quantum Age, so we'll be back in a few weeks with that. Yeah. So
I'll have to get that one.
We'll save Justin for last because he does like 47 things. So.
I have a scroll, so yeah. You can let me go when you do the outro.
Daryl, you have anything you want to tell the people about that they should check you out on Instagram or what?
Just my usual stuff on Instagram. Going to be doing a Superman show with Justin coming up here, I think sometime in August, right?
August, yeah.
We've pushed it back a little bit, but
Fire Guy Ryan.
Yep. Got that going on, and that's pretty much it for me.
All right. Nice. John, what you got going on?
Not a whole ton. I just had Comic Gories on last night with JP, and tomorrow, the better part of my channel, Kate, is talking Paper Girls on this channel, so she'll be here doing a show. I'm not invited, but Kate is rereading now because she's read both of them. Rereading volumes 1 and 2 of Paper Girls for tomorrow night's show with Tacoma Comics and Rena.
So, yeah, looking forward to that because
very nice.
I have thoughts on those first 2 volumes. Not bad thoughts.
Okay, because I'm like, wow. This is back to back. JP's really turning into White Wolf Comics.
No. Good thoughts. I have good thoughts on Paper Girls. I have good thoughts on Paper Girls. So, Justin. All right, everyone, settle in. Get comfortable.
Yeah,
all right, Justin, what do you got coming up?
Get your popcorn ready. I actually have been kind of on keeping it on the low ever since we were on our hiatus for Omni X-Men, and I haven't been doing my Saturday shows. So I'm gonna be. I have a couple of Comic-Cons coming up here in the next 2 weekends. So very excited for that. If anybody's going to be at Terrificon this weekend in Connecticut, Mohegan Sun, I will be there for Friday, Saturday. And then the following weekend, I will be in Chicago for C2E2. So back-to-back cons, some big cons. JP, you're going to be there, right?
I am going to be there.
Dude, we got to grab a drink or something, man. I'm looking forward to I'll be there Friday. We're flying in Thursday, but we're staying until like Tuesday because we're going to go do like touristy stuff as well. But I'll be at the con Friday, Saturday. Definitely want to meet up and see the truth of how short you really are.
Yes. Very short.
Very short. That's it. Just having fun. Yeah.
So yeah. Well, I just have Paper Girls tomorrow night, and then kind of my usual stuff this weekend, and then next week will be a bit of a light week because I will be heading out and going to C2E2 and visiting with my sister for a little bit beforehand, and then hanging out with you guys on Friday, Saturday, maybe some Sunday. I don't know yet how long I'll be there Sunday, but we'll see. So looking forward to that. I want to thank the few people that were hanging out with us, Perry and Chaos and Kenneth Bird. We're all in here at different times. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And with that, we will be back with more Black Hammer probably in 3-4 weeks. And we will catch you guys next time. Later.